Hello everyone, welcome to the class. Am I clearly audible and visible? Wait, let me just text in the Telegram group that we are live and then we will begin with today's class. All right everyone, welcome to the class. Hi, hello Arshia. I'll just cater to your question. Good evening Zaheen. Hi Aisha. Hi Ayushi. Hello, good evening Sakshi. Let's just wait for 2 more minutes for everybody to join in. Till then, if you have any query anywhere in whatsoever we have discussed so far, please type it in and then we will start with our class in 2 minutes, right? All right, everyone, welcome to the class. I hope all of you are doing well. Somebody please affirm that I'm clearly audible. All right, let me first of all cater to your questions and then we will start with our class. So first of all, Arshia is asking to, elaborate upon the theoretical sampling. All right. So we know that first of all, when we have to choose upon our, sample design and what kind of sample we will be using, we first of all do theoretical sampling, right? Theoretical sampling, you can understand it as it is the broad idea of who we want to study or who we intend to study. So for example, if I want to conduct, or maybe if I want to understand the psychological capital of nurses, right? So according to my theoretical sampling, I want to study what would be the broad category of my, broad category of my sample, that is nurses, right? Now as we move forward to population, or as we can call it as target population. So herein I would specify, okay, ki who we are studying in reality, right? So for example, I want to study the psychological capital of nurses in India. And to be precise, maybe nurses who belong to certain districts etc. that I have chosen for my study, right? After that we move towards our sampling frame. Sampling frame refers to the potential participants. So for example, in India, maybe I have chosen like 3-4 districts. Maybe I have chosen Delhi, Jaipur, or Chandigarh. These 3 cities that I have chosen. So now I would have to segregate or to specify hospitals. Okay, that I have to choose from these cities etc. So this potential participant will include the actual list of all the participants who can be a part of my study. So for example, all the nurses which work in a particular hospital which have been selected by me, right? Now out of those nurses I can pick and choose. And then at last, once I have the list ready with me, we move towards actual sampling, right? Wherein we actually select the people from the population that we have chosen. Clear what is theoretical sampling, Arshia? Okay, Arshia is asking, ma'am, sampling frame is a concept under theoretical sampling. No, Arshia, they are different concepts. First of all, we do theoretical sampling, right? Wherein we have gotten a broad idea who I actually want to study, what I actually want to study, who will be the people that I can generalize the study upon, etc. Right? Then we selected or we specified our target population, right? All the nurses who are in India, right? Or maybe in the specific districts that I have chosen. Then comes sampling frame, the list of the actual potential participants. So for example, if my target population is psychological capital of nurses in Jaipur, for example, so my sampling frame would include the list of nurses who are working in certain hospitals which have been selected by me in Jaipur, and then sample the actual collection of data, actual sampling which will take place. Make sense? So these concepts are not under, these are steps how we move from theoretical sampling to sample. Clear, Arshia? Chalo. Okay, Aisha is asking, can you please explain proportionate and disproportionate sampling once? Wait, let me add one slide. All right, moving ahead. So these proportionate and disproportionate sampling, when we read it as a part of stratified sampling. We know that when we have heterogeneous sample, this heterogeneous sample can be segregated into small stratas which are homogeneous in nature, right? So now what will happen? We can do that in 2 ways. We can do that proportionately, and I can do that disproportionately also. For example, if I say that this is my sample, this is the strata that I'm making. For example, male, maybe 10% are there in the population, female are 70% in the population, and the rest 30% is maybe others. Okay, those who maybe identify as gender fluid or third gender, etc. Right? So what is going to happen if I am using the proportionate stratified sampling? Then I would create a ratio. So for example, what is the total? 70 20 10. So the ratio would be 7:2:1. So for example, if I have to collect a total of 100 participants, so I would say ki 7/10 into 100, it will come out to be 70. So there should be 70 female participants. 2 upon 10 into 100, it means there should be 20 participants from, what was this, other gender. And 10 is to 100 into, sorry, 1 is to 10, so it would come out to be 10 participants. So this is that we have proportionately calculated that how many number of people should be there in our final sample, and it is proportionate. It is similar to the proportion that each of these stratums share in the data. Right, so in population, the division was 20, 10 and 70. So we have used the same proportion so that the equal representation is there in our actual sample that we have chosen. Now, when we talk about disproportionate stratified sampling, what will happen? You know, there is no ratio. So if I have to choose 100 participants, okay, so maybe I will be like, there is male, again 10%, female 70%, and maybe 20% others. So what I'll do, I want maybe a total of 100 participants. So I'm like, okay, let's choose 33 from here, 33 for him, and 34 from here. Right, so now this is disproportionate, which means the people or the participant that I am choosing, like I am actually choosing for my final sample, it is not representative of the proportion which is there of these particular division in my population. Make sense? What is proportionate stratified sampling and what is disproportionate stratified sampling? Yes, Aisha. There is, when we talk about this particular type of sampling, we know that we can calculate the chance of selection. For example, if this, if we go by this, then if there is 1 by k, right? So everybody, who is there in the, for example, if there are 1000 males, so 1 by 1000 is the chance of getting selected for males. Then again, maybe if there are 2000 females, the 1 by 2000 is their chance of getting selected, etc. here, right? So that is how we can calculate. A similar goes for hair also. So we are here able to calculate the chances of selection which are there. When we talk about quota sampling, first of all, it is going to be non-random, right? And secondly, when we talk about quota sampling, we are not dividing them into stratum, etc. We have just made specific quota. Wait, let me add another slide to explain that. So when we talk about quota sampling, we have, created a cutoff. In stratified sampling is much more detailed. In stratified sampling, there is a heterogeneous sample which is divided into small homogeneous stratums, right? Now here and there are just cutoff. We are not doing anything. Heterogeneous is divided into stratas, etc. Simple cutoff is there. Male are going to be maybe 100 for my study, female are also going to be 100 for my study. So this is the number of people, participants that I have categorized. This much from this much from this. There is no division of strata. There is no heterogeneous population which is divided into homogeneous stratums, nothing like that. Here in the main feature is this heterogeneous population of people's gender, it is divided into homogeneous strata. So all the people who are there in this one strata, they will be same, this one strata they will be same, and this one strata they will be same. That is the main feature. Now we can do it proportionately, disproportionately, that is different, right? Makes sense. In quota there are just cutoff which are there. We are not talking about the actual representation or something like that. Clear? Should we begin with our topic for today, which is ethical considerations in psychology? Clear? All right, everyone. Now, when we talk about ethics in research, we know that ethics are very important. We already read about axiology, we already read about the paradigm, and there in these aspect of axiology. That axiology are the rules, the ethics, the values that we follow for our particular study. If you remember, or if you have read about certain experiment like Little Albert experiment, like Milgram's experiment, Zimbardo's prison experiment, etc., you must have observed that these experiments have been criticized. Why? Because they were maybe cruel on some level, maybe they did not consider the human values, etc. So we know that we are dealing with humans, and it is important for us to keep their integrity, keep their, keep the morality aligned, so that we are able to, do good to the people. For example, even when we talk about Little Albert experiment, we understood that, okay, there is, stimulus generalization, stimulus discrimination, etc. We understood the SR relationship, etc. But it did so much harm to that child, right? So we need ethics, we need certain values for our study, right? So ethics is a Greek word which has been, ethics has been derived from a Greek word ethos, right? Which means custom or spirit of the community, right? And obviously it deals with morality, it deals with the rules, the professional codes of conduct, etc., that we should follow while conducting our research, from the time of collecting the data till the time of reporting and publication. We should keep these rules, moral code of conduct intact, right? Now, when we talk about, various ethics which are there, we have a lot of, ethics or values which we should keep into consideration. First of all, we have confidentiality and privacy. Now, all the data or all the participant that I am dealing with, we are saying that your data would be kept private, right? It would be anonymous in nature. I would not reveal your name, your, identity to anyone. First, privacy or confidentiality. Then comes deception. Now, when we talk about, a particular study, etc., we know that, for example, if I want to study the personality of the individual, okay, and if I say them, or if I tell them that, I am studying about your personality, or for example, if I am studying about the anxiety level that you have, etc., right? So now what happens, a lot of time you will see that people will start to answer in maybe socially desirable way, or maybe they'll start to, it will start to hamper the study that I am doing. So sometimes what happen, we will maybe tell them that we are trying to understand something about you or some aspect of your personality, rather than telling them I'm measuring your anxiety. Right? So sometimes they need to be unaware of the true aim of the study. It does not mean that you will lie to them or you will tell them completely different thing. No, we will just tell them something which will, for the results or for the data which can, affect the result, or we know that people might not give actual results. So for them, we might, do deception. For example, if I am doing this study for you, okay, and for example, Solomon's Ash conformity study. So there were these various lines, etc., that he introduced. Now, if I would have told them that I want to measure your conformity, they would not have given the answer that they actually gave, right? They might not have confirmed, they might not have behaved the way they behaved. Hence, we need the participants to be sometimes a little unaware of the investigation. But later on, okay, after the study has ended, we should tell them the true motivation. We should, we should be, telling them any, misunderstandings which might have had during the study, etc. So after that, what do? We actually do debriefing. Okay? Then we have informed consent. We know that informed consent is taken before the actual study or before the study is conducted. So we are going to tell them basically briefly about the objective of investigation, what they would need to do. Or for example, you tell them ki hello, we will be talking about certain questions which talk about your day-to-day life, and you would need to answer yes, no, or etc. Or maybe you would need to just be there and respond to whatever I ask you, etc. There's no right or wrong answer, etc. Okay, we also tell them that you can withdraw at any given point of time if you would like, etc. Okay, okay. Arshi is asking, so deception is okay in psychological research? Deception is okay if you are debriefing later, if you are not harming psychologically or physically to the person, etc., then it's fine. For example, if I am measuring conformity and if I say I am measuring a part of your personality, I am measuring how you behave, etc., so therein it might work, and later on you should tell the debrief, you should do the debriefing, and then even if the participant chooses to withdraw from the study, you should let them withdraw. Okay, even after they have participated, after you are able going to publish, so there is withdrawal, allowance of withdrawal also which is there. Okay, Sakshi is asking, ethics are same forever, as in, yeah, generally we have all of these ethics intact, and we use these ethical conduct only. Later on, like after we are done with these basic ethics, we will also read about APA's code of conduct, which has been given, right? Now, debriefing, we know debriefing will be done when? Debriefing will be done after the study. Right, so we are going to tell them about the true motivation behind the investigation, and we would tell them ki if there was any misunderstanding which has been there or anything, but it is essential to ensure that we do not leave the participants. Sometime, for example, if you are researching about trauma, right, so now it is your responsibility that you maybe give them certain counseling session after that, or you console them, or you give certain thing to them so that they are okay. They should not leave having any long lasting negative or physical or mental effects. Then comes right to withdraw. Okay, after even after they have given the consent, even after they have given the data, etc., they can leave the study at any given point of time if they wish to. Okay, and even a lot of time they are not even obligated to give any reason or disclose a reason why they are doing. They can simply tell ki I do not want to be a part of the study, and they can leave along, or maybe they can get their data deleted, and then they can. Okay. Moving ahead to protection of participants, as we said that we should not do any harm. Yes, Sakshi, the ethics are going to be same for every research. Okay, there are some research which follow, there are some research which do not follow, that is different, but the APA code of conduct actually ascribes that we should follow all of these ethical principles which are there. Okay, then comes protection of participants. As we just said, there should be no harm which should be done to the participant. This is also known as non-maleficence. Okay, wherein we do not try to do any harm. Like even if there is a temporary distress which is there, which can be caused, we should try to pre-approve the data from the ethical committee which is there, and we should try to minimize the even the temporary distress to a level that is the minimalist, like it is the least as it can be. Then comes working with animals. We know that there are certain species which have been allowed. For example, there are guinea pigs. ठीक है, there are certain categories of white mice, etc., on which the research or the ethic, the scientific community have, given the permission to work on them. So we should still, use those species, and along with that we should try to, cause no harm or mental or physical harm wherever it is possible, or we should try to keep the environment as natural as possible. Okay? And all the animals that we are taking into consideration, they must be properly cared for the study, and we should, uh, keep the environment safe for them. Moving ahead, now there is this ethical, code of ethical conduct which are there. Okay, Ashok sir is saying is plagiarism comes in ethics and research. Yes, it comes under ethics because obviously it is kind of aligning, with the integrity of the researcher. Yes, Sakshi. In every case, a participant can withdraw themselves. Like there is nothing कि बीच में leave करना harmful है for the participant. Yeah, for example, if they are like now the human trials are not actually there. There are only certain type of species of animals which have been allowed. There are no human trials, etc., which are there. So yeah, like they can leave at any given point of time. You need to tell them, if for example, if a participant is saying that I don't, like maybe they have been taking some medication for like a month in regard to the part, study, and maybe then they say I do not want to be a part of the study. So you should tell them all the potential harms which can be there if they leave right now and everything. But in the end of the day, that is their what do we say, call. But they have all the right to do so. Now moving ahead to the APA's ethical code of conduct. The first ethical principle has to do with beneficence and non-maleficence. Beneficence, as the name suggests, it concerns with benefiting the participant that we are working. So for example, if I have maybe if I can provide counseling, if I can give them some services, if I can maybe let them know the result, etc., which can be beneficial to them. So we should strive to benefit the participants, and we should care that we are doing no harm, which is a part of non-maleficence. Then fidelity and responsibility. Fidelity has to do with loyalty, trust, etc. So psychologists should establish trust. There should be a rapport formation which should be done priorly. We should again obviously be responsible of the community that we are dealing with, the society that we are dealing with. We should maintain that particular trust of our participant. Then comes integrity. Integrity has to do with accuracy, being truthful in science, teaching, practice. So for example, if you are doing any research, so you should not actually maybe copy the data, or you should not do plag, or you should not actually do any research which you feel can be harmful for the people. Like you should stay truthful and honest to the work that you are doing. Then justice, for example, if I said that there is any benefit which is there, if for example I am giving like $20 to each participant for participation in my study, so I should be fair and equal, and if there is any benefit which can be there, the quality of process, services, etc., they should be given equally to the participant. Fairness should be there. Then at last, respect for people's dignity and right. We should respect the person's privacy, their confidentiality. We should take care that we should take care of this thing, that we do not harm them or their right or any dignity in any point of time. We should make them feel worthy, right? That's all about the APA's ethical code of conduct which are there. Clear everyone? If you have any doubt anywhere in what we have discussed so far, please let me know. Clear everyone? Clear? Should we move ahead? Right. Moving ahead to our next topic. So today I'm going to briefly introduce to you various types of research which are there. First of all, we will be talking about qualitative research and quantitative research which is there, and then I will be elaborating or briefly discussing about various types of research which we will be elaborating on tomorrow. So we know that we have two major domains of research. Basically, we have three major domains or three major research design: qualitative research, quantitative research, and mixed research. But first of all, we will be reading about the qualitative and quantitative research. What does it stand for, etc. So we know that qualitative research deals with inductive approach. Right. Now, what is induction? We know that induction basically means that we start with certain specific observation, right? Then we analyze the patterns which are there, which will help us in formulating the theory which can be concluded out of, or any kind of generalization which can be concluded out of that. So we know that induction basically takes into account moving from specific to general approach. We can see that first of all we are observing the data. For example, if you saw one apple falling, right, then you observe the pattern. You maybe saw it in different context, or if you maybe tried to do various research, maybe you saw that everything that falls, it will fall downward only, etc. So you analyze the pattern. Then after that you generalize that, okay, there is a gravity, there is a force which is known as gravity, it is pulling things down. So moving from a specific observation towards generalization. Now, we have quantitative research. In quantitative research, generally we take into account deductive approach. Now, what is deductive approach? So, in deductive approach, we start from general principles and we move towards specific conclusion. For example, all swans are white. Okay, and this is a swan, so it must also be, if it is a bird and white, it must also be a swan or something like that. So what are we doing? We will start up with a general principle which can be found in a theory. On the basis of that, we will make our hypothesis. Then we will observe the data again, find pattern, and then come to a conclusion that this is correct or this is false. Clear everyone? How we use inductive and deductive approach for qualitative and quantitative research respectively. In inductive approach, we move from specific observation to general conclusions, and in deductive approach we move from general principles to specific conclusions. Clear everyone? Should we move ahead? Yes, Arshia. Quickly type in your doubt, bacha, quickly. Can you give examples for each in psychological way? Okay, I'll just give you some examples. All right. So now, first of all, just understand one thing. When I say the word quantitative, it means the data that I will be getting. It would be what? It would be dealing with some numeric value, right? So let's take first of all example of quantitative. We know quantitative will include the deductive approach, wherein we will start with certain general principles, and we will move towards specific conclusions. Now, example, I want to study the relationship between attachment styles in childhood and adult relationship. So now what I will be doing, I know that I will be, doing my ROL. I would be looking at the theories which are related to that, etc. And on the basis of that, I would formulate my hypothesis. Correct? Then what I will do, I will start to test that hypothesis. So maybe I will use some scales. Okay, and on the basis of that, I can understand the attachment style that the person had in their childhood and the adult relationship and maybe the style that they are opting right now. Then I would do what? I would observe the pattern of the data. I would see what kind of people, for example, people who had maybe secure attachment style, what kind of relationship do they have? People who had maybe neglectful or uninvolved relationship style, attachment style, what kind of adult relationship are they into? We will see the pattern, right? General pattern which can be observed, and at last we will come to this specific conclusion which are there ki, okay, these people who have maybe secure attachment style, they also indulge in secure adult relationship which are peaceful, which are maybe calm, etc. Those who have been those who have had maybe insecure relationship pattern, let it be neglectful, let it be other types of attachment style, they are not in as calm relationship, maybe they are for example, if we talk about ambivalent attachment, etc. So therein we are starting with the hypothesis which would be dealing with the general principle, maybe drawing from certain level of certain theories, drawing from certain researches which have been previously conducting. Then we collect the data, we observe the pattern in the data, and then we are going to come to the specific conclusions which are there. Clear for quantitative type, everyone? Yes, no, something? Yes. Now let's talk about the qualitative example. So when I talk about qualitative data, we know that in qualitative data, first of all, the type of data that I will be dealing with, it may be narrative, it can also be images at time, it can be anything, but not data, it not actually numeric. So in qualitative design, we know that we move from specific observation to general conclusions. Let's see how. So if I wanted to study the psychological capital of nurses, then I maybe this was the aim of my study. Then what I will be doing, I will be maybe creating a interview pattern, right? Interview questions, whatever I am going to ask from the nurses, and all of these questions should deal with the psychological capital in context of nurses. For example, psychological capital has a lot of aspects like optimism, like efficacy, etc., which are there. So they should deal with all of these features, all of these characteristics in the context of a hospital and nurses. Then I would take the data from nurse 1, I will do their interview and take their specific perspective, then nurse 2, nurse 3, nurse 4, etc. Then I'm going to see the pattern. Okay, what is common, what are the general things which has been observed, and on the basis of the pattern I will come to a general conclusion. Okay, this is what nurse psychological capital look like. This is the composition of nurse psychological capital. Clear? Are you clear with both the examples? Yes, no. If you have any query anywhere in how we move from, how we take into consideration deductive for quantitative approach and inductive for qualitative approach, please let me know. Clear, everyone? All right. Moving ahead to various major domains of research designs which are there. So we will be elaborating upon each one of them in our next class, but to give you a little brief or to introduce you with each type of these research designs which are there, let's understand them. So we have three major research designs. Quantitative, we know it deals with numeric data. Qualitative, we know it is going to deal with narrative or image or any kind of other data. And mixed method, which would have both the type of data. Now, the quantitative data can be segregated into two research designs: experimental designs or non-experimental research designs. Now, experiment, when we talk about this particular word experiment, we know that this will deal with cause and effect. In an experimental study, we know that we have a IV and a DV, and we are going to ascertain the cause and effect of that actual study, right? Now, there are various types of experimental designs that we will be reading about further, but these are the major or common types of experimental design. First of all, true experimental design. So when we talk about any kind of experimental design, we have two things that we need to take into consideration. Wait, let me add one slide. All right. So we know that there are two things which are there important. One is random sampling and another is random assignment. I think I have discussed both of these words with all of you before also, but I'll just reintroduce, refurbish these words once again for you. So when we talk about random sampling, we know that randomly we can choose people. For example, I wanted a total of 100 participants for my study. Okay, so I randomly chose my population and randomly picked the 100 participants for my study. Now, in random assignment, we know that there can be multiple groups. For example, there is a treatment group and there is a control group. So do you think I can randomly send people, 50 people to treatment group and 50 people to control group? We can do that. If I'm testing efficacy of a particular, medicine, for example, or a drug, for example. So if I've randomly sampled 100 participants, do you believe that I can randomly assign 50 people to treatment group and 50 people to control group? Yes, we can do that. So these type of studies are known as true experimental study because herein random assignment is possible. We did random assignment. Now, another type of experimental design are quasi-experiment. Quasi, basically, it is a Latin term which means resembling. So this quasi-experiment design actually resemble true experimental design, but herein random assignment will not be possible. Now you tell me one thing. I want to see maybe I want to see how a particular drug affects male and female. Okay? And there are two groups, male and female. So now you tell me, if I have selected these 100 participants, can I randomly assign 50 people to male and 50 people to female? Can it be done? Like, is it really possible to do that? There are 100 participants and 50 I have randomly sent to male group and 50 to female group. No, right? Why? Because we will have to see if they are male, we are going to send them to the group of male. If they are female, we need to send them to the group of female, right? So what will happen here? There is no random assignment which is possible. So that is why it is quasi-experimental. No random assignment is possible. Hence, we call that it will have all the things. We are ascertaining the cause and effect. We are doing everything. But because this random assignment is not possible, we are calling it quasi-experimental design, or the design which resembles the experimental design. Clear, everyone? What is a true experimental? What is quasi-experimental design? The basic of it. We'll do that. We will do all of them in much more detail tomorrow. Clear, everyone? Samiran, within group design are totally different. Okay? Chalo. Moving ahead to single subject study. Now we know that there can be certain, researches wherein the participant, finding the participants is difficult. For example, there are certain studies wherein we cannot, have a lot of participants. For example, when COVID broke in, right? So how many number of people were there who were diagnosed, and if we had to check their symptom, etc. So there were very less people. So in single subject design, there are very less participants, like around 7 to 10 participants which are there, and we are going to read about them in detail. So single subject design. Clear, everyone? What is experimental design? In experimental design, we actually ascertain the cause and effect. We have various types of experimental design, like true experimental, quasi-experimental, single subject. There are multiple types of quasi-experimental designs also, like cross-sectional, cross-sequential, etc. that we will read in detail in tomorrow's class. Clear? Now moving ahead to non-experimental design. Now, in non-experimental design, there will be no cause and effect, right? So these designs can be descriptive in nature, wherein I am just describing the feature, or I am giving the description of my participants. For example, what does COVID look like? What are the symptoms, etc. of COVID, etc. So I am herein telling about the feature. I am not ascertaining what is causing what. Okay, then comparative design, wherein I am not looking at what is causing or what is the effect, etc. Maybe I am comparing people who belong to maybe people who have certain maybe people who belong to certain community from another community, right? So there is just comparison between two or more groups which are there. Correlation, we know that we can simply establish a relationship between our variable to see what is the relationship between self-esteem and self-efficacy, right? So herein there is no cause and effect. right? There is simple relationship between the variables. Then we have secondary data. For example, the data which is already available, I'm just using that data, calculating that data again and finding pattern in that data once again. Survey, okay, I'm typically trying to understand the opinions or attitude of people in regard to a certain aspect. Then comes ex post facto. As the name suggests, ex post facto, it means after something has already happened. For example, if the floods are happening right now, after the floods are over, now I will go back, I will try to ascertain the root cause behind that, what could have been better, how, what were the aspects, etc., which could have been bettered. Okay, so ex post facto. Then comes qualitative researches which are there. If you have any query in regard to the various quantitative designs, experimental or non-experimental design that I have told you briefly about, please let me know. Clear, everyone? Yes, no, something. Clear? Okay. Arshia, qualitative can't be, experimental. We are going to ascertain that in qualitative there are chances that we cannot come upon a particular cause and effect, what is causing what, etc., right? And there are also not numerical numbers that we are dealing with. Experimental design are essentially quantitative in nature. So qualitative cannot be experimental. First of all, we are not able to ascertain the cause and effect. What is causing what, etc. Let's move ahead to qualitative design. Let's understand qualitative design and then you will understand why. First of all, we know the qualitative designs are going to be dealing with the narrative data, right? Not numeric data. So it can be interactive in nature and it can be non-interactive in nature. When we talk about interactive, we know there are various various types of qualitative designs, qualitative studies, like case study. I will take in-depth analysis of one or two cases. Grounded theories, that we'll read about that in detail, right? How we do theoretical sampling, how we do data mining again and again. There are ethnography, how we study a particular culture in detail. Phenomenology, the lived experiences of people. Critical studies are there. Then we have non-interactive designs like content analysis. For example, if there is a certain book, content analysis is done a lot of time for students who study literature, etc. So for example, if there's a book like Pride and Prejudice, so I am doing content analysis for that book. What is that book dealing with, what are the key themes that it talks about or it deals with, etc. Historical analysis, any historical aspect, etc., that we are dealing with, that is non-interactive because we are not able to directly deal with the participants or the data which is there. It is already there and we are just analyzing upon that data. Clear, everyone? What are qualitative designs? Interactive and non-interactive. Narrative, the data that we are dealing with, it is narrative in nature. It can be interactive, wherein because we are directly dealing with the data or the sample which we are collecting, and non-interactive, wherein we cannot directly deal with the data or sample, etc. We are just analyzing that. If we are taking secondary data also, that is also going to be non-interactive qualitative. Arshia is saying content analysis is somewhat like psychoanalyzing. No, not at all like psychoanalyzing. Why not psychoanalyzing? in psychoanalysis, you are going to understand the person's structure of personality, a lot of things which are there. In content analysis, it is very mechanical in nature. You will see, for example, if there are 5 students, right? And if I took data of 5 students, let me, add one slide to elaborate. Okay, if I want to conduct the data of students, like what are the issues which are faced by students, and I took the data of 5 students. So student 1 listed maybe some doubts, student 2 listed certain doubts, student 3, 4, 5, all of them listed certain doubts. Now once I am reading, or once I have transcribed what student 1 said, I am going to do coding, right? For example, if student 1 said ki maybe the content is not easily available, so unavailability of resources and content, this is one code that I've made, so forth and so on. Like what we will keep on doing, we will keep on coding. Then I will do for student 2, student 3, etc, etc. Then I will see how many times this code has been repeated, right? I will see if there is any relationship of this particular code that I have done with any other code that I have come up to, etc. So it is very mechanical, nothing like psychoanalysis. Okay. Yes, Aisha. I am just today introducing it to all of you, because if I keep on taking just one etc, if I would have just started like that, you might have confused it. That is why I'm giving you an overall perspective right now, and then from tomorrow onwards we will start off with quantitative research designs like experimental, etc. Then we will move toward qualitative, mixed design, etc. We'll do all of that in much more detail. It is just to give you a basic glimpse of how it looks like. Okay, chalo. Moving back to the last research paradigm, which is mixed method, which is going to have both type of design with both type of data, qualitative and quantitative data. So first of all, descriptive again, to determine or to describe a certain phenomena, feature of particular person, any program, etc. Then comes explanatory data. Now, there are 2 things. Let me add one slide. So now, there are 2 types of mixed designs. One is explanatory and another is exploratory. Now, when I talk about explanatory, for example, I collected the quantitative data that there is a maybe relationship between self-esteem and self-efficacy. Right, now to explain why it is happening, why this relationship is there, now I will collect the qualitative data. Now maybe if I collected 100 data of 100 people for this, maybe I will choose like 10 people or like 5 people for this qualitative data, and I will maybe interview them, or maybe I will ask them all the relevant questions, etc., so that I can come upon a conclusion, or I can explain the relationship which is there, right? So to make the relationship more nuanced, to give it reasoning, etc. Then comes exploratory. In exploratory what will happen, we will try to explore certain new insights, or find certain new insights. So therein, generally, we start with a qualitative data. For example, if I wanted to study the psychological capital of nurses. So I introduced them, if I interviewed them, etc. Then I would back it up with the I'm so sorry. Then I would back it up with the quantitative data that yes, actually this new insight was correct. Clear everyone? What is explanatory and what is exploratory research design? Yes, no, something. Yes, clear? If you have any query anywhere in what we have discussed in today's class, please let me know. Which one, bacha? Explanatory and exploratory? Okay. When we talk about explanatory, as the name suggests, we are trying to explain a relationship that we have already found, or a phenomena, or a cause and effect, etc. that we have found. So obviously for that we will have quantitative maybe a relationship which is already there. For example, you used scale of self-efficacy and self-esteem and you collected data of 100 participants. Okay, so this is the relationship that was found by you. Now, in order to explain why this relationship is so, for example, people, you will ask them, ki, Achha, this is your self-worth, right? If you feel that you are confident, or if you feel that you are worthy, does that help you in achieving tasks, or does that help you in your performance, etc.? So you will take qualitative data to make this relationship nuanced, to explain the relationship which is there. Right? Now, for exploratory, we will explore new things, right? Wherein we will have new findings, new insight, etc. So therein we would have certain qualitative data, because we are trying to find something new, right? So we will explore new insight, maybe we'll do phenomenology, we will, understand their experience, etc. Then I would need to solidify, yes, this relationship actually exist. So maybe then I will use certain psychometric measures in order to measure the relationship. Yes, Aisha, correct. The relationship which we already know, we are trying to just explain that. Very good, Aisha. Clear everyone? What is explanatory and what is exploratory? Explanatory, things that we already know, things which are there, the relationship which is already there, we are trying to explain that with the help of qualitative measures. And in exploratory, we are trying to explore new findings, etc. So we will try to do that, and we will then create a backup. We would try to create a solid evidence against it with the solid evidence behind it with the help of quantitative data. Clear? We will do them in much more detail. No notes are here. We do not have data already in exploratory. We are finding something new. For example, if I want to see that people who, feel homesick have adjustment issues, right? Now, if I have found this with the help of qualitative data. For example, I was interviewing certain students in regard to homesickness, and I found that they are not able to adjust well in the college. Maybe their performance is also deteriorating. They are finding a lot of difficulty, etc. Then I would use certain quantitative method. Maybe I have a scale of homesickness which is there, and adjustment, maladjustment, etc., which is there. So I will compare the findings which I have found in qualitative research, and I will back it up with ki, yes, dekho, what I ascertained in qualitative data the same result I'm getting in the quantitative data, which is giving me a strong backup or a strong evidence. Yes, the relationship exists. Yes, this is what exists, etc. Clear? Clear, everyone? Yes, no, something? Yes. Okay. Now from tomorrow onward, we will have like 2 or 3 classes wherein we will discuss about all of these types of experimental designs in much more detail. We will take up true experimental design, quasi, every design that we have mentioned so far today in brief, in much more detail from tomorrow to 2 or 3 more classes we would need. So we will do that. You will have much better understanding, but I hope you get a basic crux. I wanted to give you overall perspective, and then I wanted to move to specific details. So I hope all of that is clear to you. If you have any query anywhere in explanatory, exploratory, etc., I would recommend you watching that particular part of the class one more time. If you like the class, please give it a thumbs up. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much everyone for attending the class and being patient. I like that all of you were very interactive and you added on to the class. So thank you for that. Bye-bye. Take care and see you all tomorrow.